Welcome to another edition of Tandem Fandom Reviews. I'm Mick.
I'm Courtney.
And we are going to tackle what could possibly be the biggest comic book movie of the summer, as I believe it is the only comic book movie of the summer currently.
Civil War.
Ah, fair point.
Well, that wasn't really the summer, per se.
In any case, we're not going to bury the lead. We are, of course, talking about X-Men Apocalypse. I'm as far beyond mutants as they are beyond you. Your weapons are as useless as the Babylonians with their fire sticks.
If you could understand that, that was an Apocalypse impression from the cartoon.
It's pretty terrible, but that's what it was. Anyway, what did you think of the movie before we go too in depth?
I thought it was great. As soon as we walked out of the theater, I was ready to do a spoiler cast.
Yeah, me too. The one word I really feel describes this movie is fun.
Yeah, a lot of little touches for X-Men fans.
Definitely.
It was a lot of fun. It's different. Like the X-Men movies are different than the other Marvel movies.
Definitely.
Because they're Fox.
Yeah.
And they can be a little darker, they're a little edgier. It's definitely a different way, a different type of storytelling.
For sure. This movie, and I said this when we left the theater, this movie feels very much like a Saturday morning cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that by the plot is fairly simple, fairly straightforward.
Here's your bad guy, here's your good guys.
Exactly. They don't go like really in depth and do crazy stuff. It's really simple, and you get to see the X-Men do cool stuff, which I feel is important. That being said, before we do go further, if you've not seen the movie, be aware, spoilers. Spoilers.
Stop now unless you want to know the whole movie before you go see it, man.
Exactly. So that being said, you have been warned. Let's dig right in. It seems like we've lost Magneto.
We lost Magneto.
Oh,
That's a shame.
Oh well.
Actually, they did use this kind of design more for his armor this time. Not quite the suit, but the helmet.
Yeah, which was really cool. Apparently Magneto wasn't right. Oh. Anyway, so...
Was that because he fell?
He did fall, so he wasn't...
That was bad timing.
That was bad timing. I should have done it a few minutes earlier.
Magneto was right.
He was. So, that being said, what did you think of Michael Fassbender's performance as Magneto in this one? He, I believe, is delivered pretty strongly in both previous iterations. But what did you think of him in this one?
Again, he's been fantastic. I like Michael Fassbender a lot as an actor. He always brings everything he can to a role. And he gives Magneto such a depth. It's not just, he disagrees with Xavier and they butt heads. And this is partially due to the writing as well. We get a backstory. We feel for Magneto. He loses faith in humanity, and because he is more than human, he doesn't care about humanity. And he gets a wife and a child. Yeah. In this movie, which is incredible. His family was ripped from him as a child, and he was able to build another, and it's beautiful. And what happens?
They get taken away from him.
They get taken away from him because he's a mutant. The first time it was because he was Jewish, and it was just...
And it's like
it was
Nazis.
The Holocaust, and it was terrible.
Nazis. What are you gonna do?
That's what they did. They killed people. And, well, no, they killed his mother.
They did,
because he was a mutant.
To draw out that power.
Now his wife and child, the only things he had in this world, were killed because he was a mutant, even though he saved a man's life. Yeah,
that's what I was going to say. I think that's a very important thing when you look at it, because, with the two previous movies, we've seen, Xavier's on one side, Magneto's on the other side, in how they view how mutants should be treated, should act, should utilize their powers. And this is one of the first times, if not the first time, we have seen Magneto using his powers to help a human, a regular person.
Yeah.
And what happens? It bites him in the ass and costs him his family.
They don't care. It's not even a thing that he saved this man from being crushed. It's, oh my god, it's that mutant.
Yeah, it's Magneto.
Monster.
Yeah, it's Magneto, the killer. We have to stop him. We're, I guess, kind of jumping ahead of ourselves. This movie does take place 10 years after Days of Future Past.
So it's
Days of Future Past in the past. So it takes place in 1983.
Yes, Reagan is president and everybody's dumb and happy.
Yeah, I mean, again, the impact that Magneto and Mystique left with the, on the White House, as far as Magneto kind of making shit hit the fan, and then he floats away.
Like, deal with it.
And Mystique, kind of being viewed as this hero.
Yeah, she's become this mythical
like
hero to all of these young mutants who saw her on TV. Was like, holy shit, she's different.
Yeah.
She's just like me, and she exposed herself and did good.
Yeah, which is really cool. But the movie opens with what I felt may have been the strongest opening for any of the X-Men movies, which was showing Apocalypse in Egypt, being carried on like this chariot through the streets of I guess not Cairo, because it didn't exist then, but like the Nile Valley, being carried through the streets
by
and all
the
these
Great Pyramids.
Yeah, and all these people are
gold headdress,
which looked amazingly cool. That was so cool looking,
and worshippers and being taken into his own tomb. There's this big giant stone statue of him.
Yeah, and this, giant pyramid, which looked to be the celestial technology, which, of course, gives Apocalypse his armor in the comics. Really cool scene, and you see a couple of regular people kind of like giving looks, little like nods.
Yeah.
I don't think they do that, but...
No, they're just like, they're holding the staff and they go...
Yeah, just kind of like... something's about to happen.
Yeah, something's about to go down.
He's got the 4 horsemen with him. I couldn't tell if they were supposed to be anybody or not, because we saw them so briefly.
Not that I could tell. I mean, they were obviously mutants, like the priestess type. She had powers as well. But what I thought was a really nice touch was, he was obviously transferring to another body. But what they did to the body he was transferring was cut it, and it re-healed.
To illustrate...
This is why.
Exactly. This is why he's doing that. And I want to say, I think that was probably the best way to show why Apocalypse is so powerful, because... He's been getting
upgrades for hundreds of thousands of years.
And he was very, initially when you see him, his face, he's very wrinkled, he's very old, and the priestess kind of says, this is how you rule forever, because he would, regenerate himself. But again, I thought that was a really cool and creative way to explain this is why Apocalypse is super powerful, because over time, he has been stealing absorbing different mutants' powers, which is really cool, because if you ever look online, like a Wikipedia or like a Marvel description of Apocalypse, his power description is like a page long. Like, the guy can kind of do almost anything and everything. So it was really cool and a unique way to say, here's Apocalypse, he's a pretty big damn deal, and he's pretty strong.
He is omnipotent.
Yeah, just about. I mean, there's only a handful of stuff that he can't do, but we'll get to that. Yeah. Anyway, so we mentioned the guys kind of signaling to one another, and
it's a coup.
It is. The shit's going down. We're taking out this Apocalypse fellow. We don't like him.
Yeah, they set off this whole mousetrap thing, and everything falls in, caves in.
That was literally my thought when it happened. I was like, ooh, it's like Mousetrap when the cage thing falls down on you.
Hit the marble. And
yeah. That was my first thought when I saw it.
And, they all tried, and the priestess saves Apocalypse by, actually, we keep calling him Apocalypse. They do not refer to him as Apocalypse in the entire film.
Which was kind of a cool touch.
Yeah. Because the whole beginning, all of the Egyptians, they refer to him as Insabanur, which he is referred to as in the comics, right?
Yes, that's his name. It's his real name, I guess.
It means the first one.
Yeah.
So, they're all like, oh, Insabanur.
That's exactly how they did it.
And she uses her force field to protect him, so he gets encased and buried, but not crushed, like she does pretty violently.
I want to say, for a PG-13 movie, a little violent.
And
like
that's another thing about Fox Studios, you know, their action is action. And
they really pushed the envelope.
They dropped an F-bomb.
You get one.
They dropped a GD.
Did they?
Yep.
Oh, wow. I missed that.
And there was blood, there was burning, there was skeletons.
So many skeletons in this movie. I was like, damn.
And she got crushed by a rock.
She did. So basically, Apocalypse gets buried, and I did enjoy the kind of traveling through the ages.
That was a really cool cinematic, because it's obviously made for 3D. We didn't see it in 3D.
No, it was
but I'm
all
sure
standard.
it was sure. Obviously, they were using the 3D technology, because it's this tube. You're going through it, and it's a timeline.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you see the pyramids, you see the zeppelins, you see a swastika, you see a sickle and hammer, you see, you know. Yeah,
it was really nicely done. It was very cool, and of course, it ends on the X, baby. You know, which
they really X'd it up too.
They did.
It was pretty fun.
It was visually. I thought this was one of the. This is hands down probably the coolest looking X-Men movie.
Well, just Apocalypse himself, like everything that he did was so powerful. And
he
big and just visually stunning.
He felt very grand and very much so, like he was kind of carrying himself in a certain way, but as you go through the film, it is an act, and you kind of understand what he's really about.
But I don't think he ever puts his chin down.
I don't know that he could with the way the makeup was. And I guess we should acknowledge the elephant in the room in terms of Apocalypse's look.
Is Poe Dameron?
Well, he is Poe Dameron.
Which, he looked great, bald and naked on the table before he became Apocalypse.
He did. But a few months back, before the movie came out, there was a release of what Apocalypse was going to look like. And there was a lot of criticism online that he looked like Ivan Ooze from the Power Rangers movie. And, you know, Bryan Singer later came out and was kind of like, you guys don't understand. He's not purple, number one. Number two, it's just the lighting. It's just the picture we used. He doesn't look like that. And I can confirm, he does not look like Ivan Ooze. Some have also said, well, maybe not Ivan Ooze, but he doesn't look like a Power Rangers villain. I disagree. I think he looked like Apocalypse.
Yeah, I think he looked great. The one big thing that they didn't do was they didn't have the lip connected thing.
Yeah.
Oh, Apocalypse fell too.
Oh no.
We suck.
Oh well.
But since it fell.
Since it fell, we will use it to illustrate. This is the
first Apocalypse, or first appearance of Apocalypse in an X-Men film.
And if you take a look, you can kind of see that they do incorporate a lot of this design. There are some changes for it, but
it's the mouth.
Yeah, but again, Bryan Singer did talk about that they did try and capture the look from the comics a little closer, but it looked really odd and just didn't seem to fit, and I can understand that. I mean, there are some things that aren't going to necessarily transfer from comics to live action.
But what they did do was give him good shadowing under his cheeks, and from certain angles, it looked like the corners of his mouth were connected. So it worked, because if somebody were to draw that stylistically, maybe it would have come out like this.
Yeah, I will say my favorite aspect of his look was every time he used his mutant power, his eyes would go white.
Yeah.
I really liked that. I thought it was a cool touch. And I kind of wonder, him powering Storm or making Storm more powerful, her eyes go white.
Right.
Is that because Apocalypse powered her up more? Is that just that? I could see it go either way, but if it is, I'm like, that's kind of a cool little touch.
I was going to say, did it happen when she was helping her friend steal food? Or did she just close her eyes?
I'm not sure. I can't remember. Because I just thought of that now. I'm like, ooh, maybe it's because which is probably not the case whatsoever. But
still cool.
Yeah, again, that was my favorite aspect of Apocalypse, is every time he used it. It just made him look cool. It made him look scary, almost, you know?
And what was also neat, because, you know, he was encased since ancient Egyptian times, he comes out and he starts walking the streets and he's speaking something other than modern Egyptian or Arabic.
Yeah.
And he goes back with Storm, and she takes him back.
Saves
to her
her from being her hand chopped off
because she was stealing food.
Which I want to say, really like that she was a thief on the streets of Cairo.
We finally get an Egyptian Storm. Hallelujah.
She had the mohawk.
Yes.
It was so great. I really liked the look of this Storm. I mean, she fit. Her accent was good. It wasn't, you know, there and then gone like Halle Berry did.
Yeah.
She won an Oscar. How the hell could she not keep an accent for more than 2 seconds?
Well, and when she summoned the wind, she didn't have to summon the north winds to blow!
Well, to be fair, I would prefer my Storm to be like, rain, lightning, strike our enemies! I think that would have been fantastic. A little over the top, sure, but it's comic books. What do you want?
But then we get this awesome Fifth Element scene with Apocalypse absorbing information from the
It was like the
television.
Fifth Element.
And she's like, what are you doing? And he's like, learning.
That was another cool touch that they had with what they did with his voice, is it really flowed back and forth between kind of being a little like this, but he would gain an echo and the tone would change.
He was more stern, exuding more power. You'd get a little extra echo, especially when he was talking to Xavier.
He definitely felt incredibly unique in terms of, I think, any other villain we've seen in the Marvel Universe. I think he was an interesting villain. He felt like a very powerful, incredible threat as a villain, which I feel like you can't say with many other... I don't mean just like the X-Men movie. I mean all the Marvel movies.
Right.
To me, Apocalypse and Ultron are the only 2 villains that have actually felt like...
End all, be all.
Exactly.
This might be it.
Exactly.
What I really liked was they set up his character and his intentions really quickly, but not rushed. Just, it was one simple line.
Yeah.
It was, this world needs to be, and he says cleansed, but in his ancient language. And when Storm asks him, what did you just say? He says, saved.
So you get, again, what I talked about before, where he presents himself one way, even to potential followers, but he has alternative, you know, motivations and ideas in, he is going to burn the world and rule it. But he presents it to my followers as, I'm going to save them.
My children.
I love that too. And I like when, you know, he's asked his name, I believe when he recruits Psylocke, you know, he's asked his name. And
he pulls the whole Dracula line,
you know,
or the whole devil line.
Known by many names.
Many names.
Ra. I don't, he just not...
Elohim.
He didn't say Yahweh, though. He says Yahweh in the trailer.
He didn't.
But there were a couple of different, or changes on lines from the trailers.
Well, there were a couple things in the trailers that got changed as
Krishna.
It got closer.
Yeah.
Because, like, the whole 4 horsemen from the Bible, maybe the Bible got it from him, that got plucked from the trailers.
Yeah. And that's a trailer line anyway.
And it is a trailer line. It's a great line, but I wouldn't be surprised if somebody got a little iffy about it.
Yeah.
And was like, that's...
Maybe we don't want to have him call himself that.
I don't think I want you to put my the Bible in the comic as if it is a part of the comic.
Yeah. Well, and...
But it makes it more real.
Yeah.
It connects it to our world, and I for one have no problem with it. But
I don't either, but I could definitely see why.
But to say Yahweh,
yeah, it's a little bit of a concern. It's like Christ. Yeah, that would have been
Jesus.
that would have been like, oh, yeah.
Gandhi.
Well, yeah, what? But again, it's like you said. That line, I think, really gives you everything you need about Apocalypse.
He's so ancient and powerful, he doesn't even remember the first name he ever had. He's just had so many followers who loved him so much, they gave him so many names.
So, we're talking a lot about Apocalypse, but there are other mutants in this movie.
I mean, his name is in the title.
It is. He's kind of the main point of the film. Anyway, Mystique.
Yes.
She is no longer living out loud, as it would be.
Right.
She's not blue. She looking like Jennifer Lawrence, blonde, walking around the streets of Germany. And we get to see Nightcrawler and Angel in a underground fight club in Germany.
Cage match.
Which was really, really cool.
And who else do we get to see before Nightcrawler?
Rob. That was a nice little touch. I mean, they never say it, but again...
It's the really giant fat guy.
And he was in the black bodysuit. Like, it was him.
It was fun.
And he got his ass kicked by Angel, because apparently Angel is a cage-fighting badass in this world.
Well, he, like, ran away from home because he was...
I don't know. Like, again, and that's a question that I have in terms of the X-Men movie continuity now. Are we in an alternate timeline? Have things changed to where the events of the first, second, and third movie have no longer occurred or will no longer occur?
We'll find out.
Yeah. I would say no, considering Angel was a pretty big part of the third movie, and he dies in this movie, and was turned into Archangel in this movie.
Right.
So, that's certainly a change.
What I really liked about Angel was he had, like, claws on his wings.
I like that he cut, he was like making tally marks into the floor with the asses that he kicked.
That was badass.
Yeah. What do you think of Nightcrawler's design?
I thought it was great.
Yeah, I really liked it.
Because he had kind of the markings and lines in his skin. He was blue. He had the Nightcrawler hands. The like 3 fingers, which they brought attention to when he said in 3, 2,
1, 2. It was a nice touch. Again, I'm with you. Really enjoyed Nightcrawler's design.
He was incredibly German.
He was.
Also incredibly Christian Catholic.
And I like that too, because, and again, it was not anything they spent a lot of time on, but you see him several times in the movie. He's praying, he's crossing himself, it was a nice touch to show, like, that is
I think he was actually saying an Our Father in German.
Yeah.
Or a Hail Mary.
And that's a big aspect of Nightcrawler's character, is he is very religious, and it was just really cool. They worked it in organically, but they didn't beat it down your throat. Right. They didn't spend too much time. Here's an aspect.
It's one of those things where if you pay attention to everything in the movie, you get everything from the movie.
Definitely.
They don't throw it in your face.
Yeah. They also kept the better lines from X2 with the, in X2 he says, but in the Munich circus, I was known as the amazing Nightcrawler, because I'm Kurt Wagner. They kind of kept a little along those lines, where, she's like, what's your name? And he's like, Nightcrawler. Well, Kurt Wagner. And she's like, yeah, whatever. When Mystique saves him. But she, Mystique infiltrates this underground fight club and saves her fellow mutants from beating the shit out of each other.
Which is nice.
Yeah, which is pretty thoughtful. I think it's nice. More so she's
just kind of being a vigilante hero. She's not, like, recruiting or anything. She's just keeping mutants from being in those kind of shitty situations.
Being exploited.
Yes.
For being mutants. And I kind of liked the fact that she was Solid Snake, where she's like, I'm no hero, like the whole movie. And it's like, I mean, you are, because you're saving everybody. A reluctant anti-hero.
Well, all of her friends died.
Well,
while she was being a hero.
Fair point. But, so she saves Nightcrawler, and we get to see, kind of our first look at young Jean Grey, young Cyclops, fucking awesome 80s haired Professor Xavier.
Yes, flowing locks. Really makes you sad when he loses them.
I want to address this before we move any further. Apparently, every mutant in this film, and Moira McTaggart, do not age.
Yeah.
Because this is at least 20 years after the events of First Class. nobody's aged a day. And I don't know if they had a line in it where Xavier sees Moira McTaggart, and he makes the comment, "She looks great. She hasn't aged a day in 20 years." So I don't know if that was kind of, you know,
They're making fun of it.
Yeah, them poking fun at the fact of, like, none of these people look any different at all. And the biggest one for me was Havoc. Because in First Class, they get him from prison.
Yeah.
So if you start breaking it down, let's do
Gotta be 18.
At least 18 to be in prison.
Yeah.
So he's at least 18. This is 20 years after First Class. So, at the very least, best case scenario, Havoc is 38. Did you get that impression that he was 38 whatsoever?
No. Maybe he was 20.
Yeah, and
maybe it's because he's a mutant and he's got special genes and he doesn't age.
How about the parents, though? How old are his parents? Where if he's 38 years old, and we'll say, again, best case, low estimate scenario, Scott was 16.
Yeah.
How old are his parents? The line that got me, too, was Cyclops was, you know, this is after Havoc dies from the explosion. And Cyclops is very distraught, as you would imagine if your brother were to die.
Yeah.
And he's like, he was supposed to be the one to do something with his life. He was supposed to... I looked at that and I was like, he's like 2 years from drawing Social Security. He hasn't done anything with his life at this point. It ain't happening, fella.
When he went to prison.
Yeah, he was in prison.
He broke out of prison.
He was in prison.
Did you not know this, Scott?
And then he was in the army, which...
Did your old ass parents not tell you?
Yeah, maybe they're senile. Like, I mean, they have to be old because they've got like a 55-year-old son walking around and a 16-year-old son. This guy has got his AARP card. He's collecting Social Security. You know, he's getting pissed off at all these kids being on the X-Mansion's lawn.
Yep.
But he looked like he was a extra in Miami Vice. Speaking of, like, 80s hair, he had the full, like, Miami Vice get-up.
Oh, yeah.
Rocking it. But I feel like that needed to be said that apparently no one ages because they all look...
Silver.
You know, I think he actually did look a little bit older.
I guess so.
A little bit.
I think it's the gray hair.
And more of he looked like shit. So I guess, like, no offense, Evan Peters, but I was like, ugh. Quicksilver's been having some hard times in Mom's basement, huh? Anyway, so we get to see the X-Mansion, the school for gifted youngsters.
For a little bit before it gets blowed up.
Yeah. What did you think of the casting of young Cyclops and young Jean Grey?
Young Jean Grey, I think it worked because she was, you know, tall, long, red hair, very nice, but very conservatively dressed.
She was.
Always books in her arm. Very, leave me alone. Like, I'm here to study. Like it's a real school.
She definitely felt like an outcast.
Yeah.
I will.
And all the other mutants being all like freak.
Yeah, which is kind of like, guys, really?
Come on.
I will say, when I saw the trailer, the first trailer where she has the nightmare and all I saw is fire and death, I was really concerned at how her voice was going to sound because she is a British actress.
Yeah.
So I was really, really concerned because I was like, oh boy. It was not bad. I don't know what kind of sound they used for the trailer, but she sounded okay. So I was really relieved because I was like, oh man, she sounds really weird. And there were moments where her hairline looked like crazy funky. I don't know if it was...
I think it's just the color of her hair and how fair-skinned she was.
Yeah,
when you
that's
pull
fair.
it back, the thinner parts, it shows more skin than like mine.
And we didn't know this, but apparently our theater was experiencing projector issues. We found this out after the film.
We couldn't tell. I couldn't tell. Apparently it was darker than it should have been.
And admittedly, when the movie first started, I'm looking at it and I'm like, wow, it's kind of dark. Man, it must just have been the way they shot it. Because it didn't look too bad. It didn't look
Well, I mean,
off.
it starts out inside of an Egyptian like tomb.
Yeah, so I thought it was fine. I thought it was just the way they shot the movie, and then afterwards they were like, oh, hey, the projector was broken, so...
Here's some free movie tickets, so we're gonna go get to see our next movie for free.
Thanks, Manchester Cinemas, for having a busted projector, I guess. Yeah. Anyway, so maybe that was... I say that to say this. So maybe that was why it looked a little odd because it was a little darker, so maybe her hairline looked stranger because of that.
No, it's just the way red hair looks when you pull it back.
There you go.
Okay.
Excuse the cough. Having a little bit of a dry spot. Let me try it.
I really liked the initial interactions between Scott and Jean.
Definitely.
Because poor Scott. He's got the worst kind of power to just discover that you have. He's sitting in class and he's like, oh, my eyes.
I liked the blinking in class, and
the guy be like, you looking at my girl?
He's like, yeah, you do look old enough to be her father. That was kind of like a goof line. Yeah. I'm like, that's such a Cyclops thing to say.
Right.
But it worked. It was really cool. It was a really fun line.
Because he is, kind of cocky. He's always been like that kind of cocky
guy. And he runs to the bathroom, he locks himself in, and he's having trouble, and then boom, optic blast!
Ba-ba-bam, and he's like, crap.
Yeah, and I like the casting. I thought the kid was great. Really dug his awesome Ray-Ban sunglasses with the ruby quartz or whatever it was.
Yeah, it contained the vector field.
Yeah, really, really cool. Like you said, the interactions that he had with Jean Grey, initially they bump into each other, and he's like, what the hell?
Yeah, and he's like, oh, frosty bitch, and then he sees her, and he's like, oh.
Oh.
oh, that's her. He destroys the tree. Nice little comedy.
Yeah, and Xavier's like, my grandfather planted that tree when he was 5 years old. It's probably my favorite tree. Really nice touch. Again, I thought that they worked comedy pretty seamlessly into this movie. Like, it flowed well. It never felt like goofy or eye roll moment or just like, ugh.
It was just, these people, they all live together, they all know each other, they're all very comfortable with each other, so they can just organically make jokes in conversation and in situations.
Yeah. So, what do you think as far as the putting Moira McTaggart back into the film, the CIA, because she was not in Days of Future Past at all. So I kind of thought she was going to be done with the series, but I liked her presence back in it. I like the perspective of the kind of like outside party almost.
Yeah. It was, it worked.
Yeah. Rose Byrne did good, and again, like I said with the line, oh, she looks great. She hasn't aged a day in 20 years.
She was a trooper.
Yeah.
Seeing all the things she saw as things progressed.
Really kind of rolled with everything. It was never at a point where she was just like, nope, too much.
You're blue?
Yeah. Which I was like, alright, she's taking this all really well.
Yeah, CIA.
Nah, she's seen some shit.
Aliens
She's seen some stuff, man. And we talked about this at the beginning, but Magneto losing his family, I thought that this was Michael Fassbender's strongest moment in any of the three films.
Yes.
He really tapped into that moment where, the guy lets go of the bow and arrow, it hits his daughter and wife, kills them both.
Both of them.
That was a really heavy moment, but I think Fassbender really brought the thunder.
Well, what was best was the part in the script where he's talking to his daughter and he mentions his parents.
Yes.
And she says, is anybody ever going to take you away from me?
Yeah.
And he's like, never.
I'm Magneto. Nobody's taking me.
So then, in the woods with the confrontation with the cops, and they take him away, there goes her mutant powers. She starts screaming, and all the animals start coming out of the woods, which, you get a little foreshadowing when she's playing with some deer. Yeah,
for a second it didn't occur to me that might have been her mutant power. I was like, what the hell, is she Snow White here? She's got like 10 deer around her just hanging out. But, yeah.
But it really calls back to his scene at the concentration camp.
Yes.
The screaming and the crying and the no.
That moment where it pulls it out.
Yeah, it happens, and the birds are attacking the cops, and make her stop, and
yeah, it was heartbreaking. Like, that was such a heartbreaking moment, and you're right, it really calls back to the scene in the concentration camp for him, with the pulling him away from his mother. Also, right before his mother was shot by Sebastian Shaw, and just, it was a really cool callback to that moment. Heartbreaking, though.
Man,
like,
cradling them both, my babies.
Yeah. And then, again, Magneto used his power to save somebody, so he goes back to the foundry where he works, the Ironworks, I guess, which, before I continue with that, I want to tell a story. So, we were talking, she was talking about this scene.
We're talking over lunch, because, of course, I watched the clip that they released of him in the foundry, monologuing before he's all like, my name is Magneto.
Yes. And
talking about how cool it is.
She's like, oh, it looks fantastic, you know, he's very intense, and...
But he's working in, like, this, like, blacksmith place, and I don't know why he chose to work at a place like that.
While wearing a Magneto shirt, she says this, and I just look at her, and she's...
I'm an idiot.
So, the master...
Why would Magneto want to be surrounded by metalwork?
I have no idea what the master of magnetism would want to work in an iron factory
That's
for.
bad writing.
It doesn't make any sense. He should be a carpenter. So, that being said, he's in the foundry, and he lays it down for these dudes. And he's like... You know, you want to know who I am? You know, and they're like, Henrik, please, because he's been living under an assumed name.
Yeah, Polish.
Yes, he was in Poland.
And he delivers this great line about, think of your loved ones, those closest to you. Now they're gonna know what it's like to lose somebody like I have. I'm Magneto, bitch. And...
Well, actually, no, that's wrong. He was about to kill them, and then all of a sudden... Apocalypse shows up.
In his amazing travel bubble thing.
Which was really cool.
I don't know, was he able to do that before he got Psylocke?
You know, I don't know. That's a good question.
I don't think he was able to do that before he got Psylocke.
And we're kind of going all over the place with this, so forgive us. But, you know, at this point, he's recruited Storm. Powered Storm to be stronger. He's recruited Psylocke. Power her to be stronger, and he's recruited Angel, powering him to be stronger, healing his wing, turning it to metal, turning him from Angel to Archangel.
And you can fire metal wing, metal feather things.
Which was very, very cool, and a nice little tidbit, Archangel was listening to Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse by Metallica when he was recruited by Apocalypse.
Just a good touch.
So, saying all that.
Oh, and he was drinking a big old bottle of liquor.
He was. Well, his wing was all jacked up from when Nightcrawler...
Yeah, it was an electrified fence.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. But he's got sweet, badass metal wings. And he's all like, shit.
Pushing that PG-13.
They did. So, Apocalypse and his homies show up in the Ironworks, and Magneto looks at him, and he's like, you know... You don't stop me from killing
these people.
And Apocalypse is like...
And they all sink into the floor.
Which I love that was one of his powers.
Yeah.
Almost like he had control over the sands or something. It was very crazy.
He could, like, one of the first things he does is absorb that guy into the wall.
And made that gun just disintegrate into dust.
Cut off people's heads with sand.
Yes.
That was cool.
He just felt... so strong and so powerful as a character.
He didn't even have to, like, you know...
He just, the eyes go white and boop. Shit happens. Which is really how every mutant power should go, I think. So...
But yeah, so all the men just... And Magneto's like, okay.
Oh, well then. That happened. So, you know, and he's all like...
My son.
Oh, wait, we forgot the best part. When he shows up, Magneto looks at him and goes... Who the fuck are you? Which, that is like, you get one F-bomb in a PG-13 movie, and I was like, that's the best way to use it.
Good use.
Definitely. So, and then Apocalypse lays it on thick, you know, my son, I'm here to help you. You are my children in this world. Yeah, I am kind of making him like a Dracula. But,
he takes him into a psychic bubble thing, and where does he take him? motherfucking Auschwitz.
Where it all began for Magneto.
And I believe they were actually there. Very, very haunting, because I've seen, like, the drone footage lately that they've done of the, it's still there.
They may have. It looked a lot like it. If it's a set, that was an amazing looking set.
So, of course, he's like, why did you bring me here? I don't want to be here. We get flashbacks of his mother and that scene in the first movie. And Apocalypse starts monologuing to him in his oh-so-wonderful way. What is the actor's name? I don't want to keep calling him Poe Dameron.
Oscar Isaac.
Oscar Isaac. Oscar Isaac delivers these lines in such a way that I wanted to follow Apocalypse out of that theater.
It was one of those things where you see him as Poe Dameron, and then you see him as Apocalypse, and you're just, that's the same actor? Like, he was night and day in terms of the way he spoke, the way he carried himself, the way he delivered his lines,
because Poe Dameron is so light and kind of snarky and energetic, but
who talks first? You talk first? I talk first?
Right. But then Apocalypse is so just big.
He was grand. He was just very grand.
Grandiose and dark and heavy and
theatrical. He was very
literally, like, he could just reach out and pull you into him, and you would just become this wonderful ray of light through the power of Apocalypse.
Have you heard about our Lord and Savior Apocalypse? That's what I'm starting to get here. Do you have a moment to listen to us? There's someone I'd like to tell you about.
Have you read the good book? X-Men X Factor number 6.
Have you heard the story of Apocalypse? but no,
that's how he was conveyed, and why these 4 kind of lost ragtag mutants. It's kind of weird to say Magneto's ragtag, but he is
those other 3 J-Brones, but Magneto.
He is, he's lost, he's damaged, he lost everything, found something else, and lost that too. And here is Apocalypse saying, feel the metal in the soil.
Yes.
Feel everything in the earth.
Go as deep as you can.
And he rips down Auschwitz. He completely destroys everything. And it's fantastic the way they do it, because it literally has... It's all like kind of circular, and it's magnetic field. Like if you take a magnet and you run it around in some iron filings, that's what happens. Those little circle curvy things.
There's science lessons for you.
And it's such a powerful scene. It's like when Xavier was telling him, remember, think happy thoughts, and if you believe.
Clap! Clap! All you have to do is believe, Magneto!
And you get the cute little thing of, him with the menorah and stuff, and then he moves the satellite dish. But in this one, he's remembering the pain and the garbage and the coin and the 9 when he was a child, and everything. And you could see him feeling it.
Yeah, well, and I want to say, this movie, and I feel like this is part of the reason why we're kind of jumping around back and forth to different points of the movie, is because I feel that this movie is really defined by really strong moments.
Yes.
In terms of, like story and flow, the story, pretty basic. Good guys versus bad guys.
Right.
Good mutants against bad mutants.
Big bad guy comes along. Good guys got to band together. Tweener guy has to go to the good guy so big bad can go away.
Exactly. But, there's not a lot of, deep, dialogue parts. There's not a lot of crazy, exposition into characters or anything. But there are incredibly strong moments, like Magneto ripping Auschwitz to the ground,
And then, while this whole epic event is happening, Apocalypse is delivering this great speech of, we will tear it to the ground and rebuild it better.
Yeah. Again, he's very similar to, an Adolf Hitler. Its presentation is one way. His true intentions are his own intentions. So it's very classic, villain, in that he has his presentation, and that he gains his followers through, like, I'm telling you everything that you want to hear and everything you want to know.
We're going to make the world that you want, and the world that you want, and the world that you want, so that I can have the world that I want.
Yeah. And, you know, we start to see this kind of towards the end of the film, but we'll get there. How did you like the teasing of Phoenix with Jean Grey? You know, where the walls are bubbling and she's having all these nightmares and these visions.
Yeah, that was really intense. And when Apocalypse came back to life or woke up, and she starts vibing on it, and you know, all the other
from the CW Splash.
all the other little mutants are coming out in the hallway.
She's doing it again.
Oh my god, again. And, you know, Xavier's like, it's just a dream, calm the hell down.
Relax, you're
and
acting like a crazy person.
No, this is different, this is the end of the world.
I did like that she looks at Xavier and she says something along the lines of, like, you don't know what it's like to hear all these voices and blah, blah, blah. And he could have been like, bitch, please, you know who I am. But he wasn't. He was just like, I think I have an idea of what it's like. You know, I really like the way McAvoy carried himself. You know, from an appearance standpoint, he didn't look older, but the character of Xavier has definitely changed and grown and evolved.
It was very Apocalypse. Were he benevolent?
Yes.
He knows he's this much more powerful and refined, and can help these younger mutants find their potentials.
Yes.
But as more of a nurturing, mothering, tutorial kind of way.
Yeah.
Tutorial from Understory. Undertale.
Yeah. No, it was. And again, there were so many things that were, like, cleverly done the way they did things in this film, in that they do sneak that sort of stuff in there, so you get these really strong moments, and I felt some of the characters were really nicely done, because we've spent so much time with, you know, Xavier's character over, I mean, more than 3 movies, but just First Class, Days of Future Past, and then Apocalypse.
Right.
You know, the transition from, it's a very groovy mutation. You know, the kind of young, smart telepath who just wants to get laid, to, you know, he's fallen from grace a little bit, and he's all drunk and haggard.
Yeah.
And, you know, and to now he has stepped into, he is the professor, and he's teaching and molding these young minds.
Beacon of hope.
And Magneto's pissed off all 3 movies. I mean, it's really the dynamic that you want, you know. But yeah, I thought it was really cool, and as I'm watching that, I'm seeing the walls bubble, and they were talking about, like, the heat and everything. I'm like, if she doesn't become Phoenix, I'm gonna get pissed off about this.
Well, and he talks about, you know, you have a great power within you. You'll come into it. You'll be okay.
You'll grow. You'll be all right.
You'll be all right.
Cyclops, I felt, was really interestingly done, because he felt in many ways more like Havoc than Scott. And in a lot of ways, I guess they kind of,
yeah.
A young hothead, and it's like, well, that's not really Cyclops. I'm Cyclops. I'm the leader. I lead the X-Men, which I guess
becomes that.
Yeah.
And in this storyline, it's because of Havoc's death.
Yeah, it really makes him go, I gotta get my shit together. My 64-year-old older brother died sacrificing himself. I have to honor a legacy that he left. Even though we have, like, grandchildren, I have to honor this legacy. But no, I kind of like that. He did take command in a lot of ways by saying, like, oh, the professor's gone? Hey, man, let's go to the mall. Nightcrawler, you ever been to a mall? Let's go. You know?
What's a mall? I want to go to this mall.
I want to go to that. I want to go to that.
I want to go to the mall.
So they take, you know, they go see Return of the Jedi, which I really like.
Yeah,
that
nice little touch.
So they poked fun at how terrible X-Men: The Last Stand was.
Yeah, so it was like, oh, so much better. Their Empire was so much better. It's such a good story. La 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 la. And it's like, well, you know, the 3rd movie always sucks.
Yeah, and when they delivered that line, the crowd kind of they laughed because, well, not everybody, but most people laughed because they were like, it really was terrible. Yeah, but you know, so again, he kind of took command of the situation, and he was like, "Let's go, guys! Come on, I got this. Where's a car? Let's find a car."
Yeah.
How'd you like Quicksilver in this one?
A good reprisal of the same kind of role.
They worked him exactly like I thought they should.
Yep, we get the awesome music montage, Quicksilver scene of him saving everybody when the Blackbird explodes.
No, I like the one from Days of Future Past better because of the turning the things and making everybody hit each other. This one was pretty great, but I think Days of Future Past I enjoyed more.
But he grabs two people and surfs out on a table.
And he did get the dog eating the pizza. Alright, yeah, this one was better. Alright,
He sets up the sheet and he sets up the mattress.
That's what got me. I was like, what the hell is he doing?
So when everything went back to, not that he's freezing time, but it seems like he's freezing time. So when everything started back, everybody was like poof, 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 poof.
It was pretty great. It was a nice, like you said, reprisal of the character. I felt like he's so strong in that role of just kind of like comedy relief, but he helps drive it forward a little bit with what he can do. It was nice.
Everybody knows that he's Magneto's son, except for Magneto. Well, Mystique knows. The audience knows.
Yeah, well, everybody but Magneto knows, pretty much. So, Apocalypse and crew show up to the mansion. This is after Xavier has, he utilizes Cerebro. He's reaching out to try and figure out, what's going on. Where is Magneto? Because that's kind of what happens is Mystique finds out Magneto's on the run again.
There's a lot of dead bodies.
Again. So she goes to Xavier saying, hey, Charles, I need your help. I need to find Eric, yada, yada, yada. Pop the thing on your head. And Beast, who is so, like, bro, he's back on, like, the Mystique obsessions. He's like, I based the color design on... Oh, never mind. Oh, pretty lady. So like, Beast, brother, go take a cold shower or something.
First mutant love.
It's been like 20 years.
And she came back.
And she's blue, he's blue, da-be-dee-da-be-die. If he was green, he would die. So
he's blue because of her blue. She is a part of him.
Is he blue? So, she goes to Charles, find Magneto, he puts on Cerebro, reaches out, and finds...
He's not alone.
Yeah. I've never felt power like this before.
His eyes turn black.
And secretly, this was my hope. I'm sure they are nowhere into this being a thing. But when his eyes turned black, and he kind of went a little, like, dark side, like power-hungry Xavier, I was like... Are they teasing Onslaught?
Oh!
I really, really hoped that they were. I seriously doubt it.
Not this soon.
No, and I mean that's such a... I'm gonna put on wax right now. I don't think they're gonna do the Onslaught story. I really hope they do the Onslaught story. But, so that's kind of the impression that I got from it, just the kind of the darker side of Xavier. I've never felt power like this before.
I think I like it.
Yeah, he kind of did. He felt a tingle in his dingle when he felt Apocalypse. But at that point, Apocalypse...
felt him.
Which is, he is realizing, I've got all this power, but I don't have the one thing I need, which is to reach the minds of everyone, which is something that Xavier can do.
Yeah.
So Apocalypse and his homies roll into the X-Mansion.
Like, what up?
And they were up to no good. Started making trouble in Xavier's neighborhood. They got in one little fight, the Blackbird exploded, and then Havoc died. That's how that song goes. No, but they show up, they abduct Xavier, Havoc being all sorts of blasts with the chest. He hits, the Blackbird and destroys the X-Mansion.
And himself.
Quicksilver shows up, saves everybody's ass, and then Stryker shows up.
And...
abducts Little abduction.
Little abduction.
Couple abductions.
Gets Mystique, gets Moira, gets Quicksilver, gets Hank.
Mm-hmm. And the ex-kids.
Leave the kids.
Yeah, and Cyclops, Nightcrawler, and Jean all sneak onto the helicopter.
And they were able to do that because Jean is able to block the perception that they are there. It's not really making them invisible, but it's making them unseeable by other people's minds.
Yeah, it was a nice touch.
They're just not perceived as being there.
I thought that they did a good job of making Jean seem powerful and also seem unique in her use of her powers.
Yes.
You know, it made her seem just a little different from Xavier, but nowhere near as strong. But the potential is certainly there.
And she has telekinesis.
Yes. So, you know, they ride to this secret facility. And Stryker's all like, where's Magneto? Where's Xavier? Rawr, I'm Stryker, I'm
and
mad.
Mystique is like, we don't know because you abducted us.
Yeah, you know, and...
Like, he literally got abducted like 2 seconds before you showed up and abducted us, so we have no clue, let us go.
Yeah, and then at this point, you know, Apocalypse has hijacked Xavier and said, you know, look, you're going to spread my message to the world, and again... He had so many great, like, monologues through this movie where he's just... I think that was the best part of his character, was just this, stand and the world will bow! Yeah. And he launches every nuclear missile in the world simultaneously. That whole thing... No more spears, no more slings.
Stand at the top of the Tower of Babel and fire your arrows, but you will never strike God.
It was so cool. And, you know, everybody is shitting their pants.
Because every nuke is going off. They're like, who's turning the keys?
Yeah, our men are, you know, but he used Xavier... He
amplifies Xavier's powers just like everyone else's to reach all their minds. Their eyes turn black.
Yep.
And they're physically controlled.
It was, again, it was such a strong moment, and that's what this movie just does so well, is just give you cool stuff.
Because everybody's afraid, you know, that it's all gonna, you know, Russia's gonna bomb us, we're gonna bomb them, but they all went straight up.
They're essentially expecting... the apocalypse. So, you know, he launches all, and Xavier tosses in at the end of his speech the, like, you know, help everyone, or
and
something.
If you have these powers, use them to protect others.
Yeah, which is kind of like, really, Charles? So
that's my message.
So, you know, the Cyclops, Nightcrawler, and Jean are running around Stryker's facility.
And Xavier was able to be like, Jean,
don't. Wait a minute.
That's Logan.
Foreshadowing.
She's like, I heard him, and Nightcrawler's like, we all heard him, and she's like, no, he spoke to me specifically. Shut up. Yeah.
So, you know, at that point, you know, help me, Jean Grey.
Find me.
You're our only hope. Very Star Wars-ish is Professor Xavier. So, you know, they're running around Stryker's facility, and they come across...
There's some life form in this machine, and he's trapped like an animal.
And he seems different. They've taken something from him to make him a weapon. At this point, I'm excited. I'm getting excited. Because I'm like, I know that Wolverine's in the movie. Because the trailers have shown the snicked... But I was like, oh man, please let him be wearing the Weapon X helmet. And ladies and gentlemen, he's in the helmet.
He's in the helmet.
He's in the helmet!
And he just goes, he gets out of the thing, and he goes berserk. He starts snick, cutting.
Come on, Bub!
He's stabbing fools. He's like bulldogging guys, and just boof, boof, boof. Boof is like, he's dead.
He's snick, snoring.
Snicky, snarl.
That's Wolverine's berserker attack, if you're unfamiliar. So, but
he's got the helmet, he's got the pipes and
all
hoses
the stuffs and the claws and the
ripped up shorts, and he is losing his mind.
It was one of the best scenes I have seen for Wolverine ever.
And they said one of the security guys is like, "Weapon X is loose," and it was like, "Weapon X."
It was so great because, you know, and they've done some really cool stuff with Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. You know, especially in the movie The Wolverine. They gave him some really cool stuff.
Yeah.
The thing I liked most about this particular scene is it completely put a bullet in the head of X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Yep.
Completely was like, nope, not a thing, never happened. Nope.
Bullet in the head, no pun intended.
Worst
part.
Ha! Terrible. So, but basically the way they call him the Beast, that is Wolverine, is Jean reaches out to him and gives him back a memory.
She reaches in and you hear Logan.
So, which again, you know, calms him and he runs off into the snow.
And, you know, he pulls out his implants.
Did you notice that he had like the long sideburns in his hair? It was so great.
Running away in the snow and you can kind of see the Wolverine points on the top.
It was excellent.
But what I really like about that is there's always been this kind of unspoken connection between
sexual tension,
Jean and Wolverine, because Wolverine really is unable to communicate his feelings and has a really hard time talking and opening up with people.
For sure.
But Jean can read minds and is telepathic, so he never had to talk to her. She just always understood.
She knew. And
that was their first interaction, was she was understanding.
They laid a nice groundwork with that relationship. And again, I don't know if it's because we spent so much time with these characters already and they are so familiar with all the movies that we've gone along with, but they never have to dwell on much. They never have to spend unnecessary time. Nothing ever feels drug out in terms of, you know, character interaction. It was just everything was just enough, and it's just what you want. To me, if you're a longtime fan of the X-Men, this movie just gave you what you wanted to see, you know, in terms of an X-Men movie. Just Jean and Wolverine, Jean and Scott, you know, and Magneto and Xavier, just everything that you want to see in terms of that, you got as an X-Men fan. It was really cool. Moving forward. So they bust out their homies.
Yeah.
Figure out, you know, we've got to save Charles. Can we find him? And Jean's like, well, I can find him. They steal a jet. They fly. And at this point, things are going a little crazy because Magneto is, I guess it was like he was reversing the Earth's polarity.
That he was just using it to literally pull everything to the ground.
So you were seeing,
like the military guy said, anything built past the Bronze Age is dust.
So the world.
Yeah.
And it was catastrophic. It was one of those moments where you really got to appreciate if Magneto really wanted to and focused enough, he could destroy the entire world.
Everything.
If he wanted to, based on just everything. Mm-hmm. And you know, they're going in, they're all in their leather suits,
all their cool suits that Apocalypse made for them.
Yeah. Did you enjoy Archangel having the markings on his face that looked like what his mask is like? That was a nice little touch. Psylocke was rocking her outfit, which I want to put on an apology because I was pretty critical of Olivia Munn being cast as Psylocke. I wasn't a fan of the casting, and admittedly I'm not particularly a large fan of her work. I saw her and I was just like, I mean, I guess she has the look.
She definitely has the look. I think she looked great.
Yeah.
The character didn't really have a lot of like lines or anything, so she wasn't really a huge part of the film.
But I will say she did what she needed to do.
Yeah.
And so I was pretty critical. I was like, ugh, oh god, she's gonna be terrible. She wasn't. You know, she was fine. I don't think she ever pulled me out of the movie. I don't think I ever groaned at anything. Well, that's not true. There is one moment when I did, but that's nothing on her. We'll get to that. But so I'll put that out there. I was wrong. She wasn't bad. She was fine.
Yeah.
She, could have been worse.
I liked her katana and whip.
And the psychic, blades. Again, they handled her really well. They did a good job with Psylocke. It's what you would have wanted to see from Psylocke appearing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, they go and they're ready to save Charles, and Magneto's making things go crazy, and Apocalypse is ready to take Xavier's power, giving him the ability to reach everyone in the world.
Because the one thing he didn't have was everybody or something.
I took that as, and this is kind of a callback to X2, where Xavier had Cerebro on, and he had the ability to kill every human or mutant in the world. If he concentrated hard enough, he could kill everyone. That's how I took it, that's possibly what Apocalypse would have done to utilize Xavier's power.
Kill all humans.
Yeah. Hey, baby, you want to kill all the humans? So, in many ways, Apocalypse is Bender from Futurama.
Yeah.
But, so they begin the process of him absorbing Xavier's powers, which...
Like transferring to his body.
That's where I was unsure. I didn't know if he was just taking his abilities or if he was going to end up in Xavier's. But
Xavier started screaming, "Get out, get out."
Okay, so maybe he was going
Because that's
in.
what he did to Poe. Was Poe's body became Apocalypse.
That's true. You know what? He would probably still look like all the other powers would transfer.
Right.
Okay. So, he's...
And that's why Xavier went bald.
So, he's in the process of transferring over. He's got his disciples to protect him for the transfer. So we get the call back to the opening of the movie where the same thing was happening. This, I thought, was the strongest part of the movie. Because
the mind battle?
Yes.
Cool.
It was really cool. And just all of them battling, using their powers. To me, this is what you want from an X-Men movie. You want good mutants battling evil mutants. That does bring me to what I felt was the worst part of the movie. There was a car that was being thrown, and it was cut in half by Psylocke with her psychic katana, and she does a flip, and it looked
so bad.
Awful. It was so bad. That's incredibly nitpicky, and again, that's the special effects team's fault, but that looked terrible.
Like, she's just like...
Ooh.
I'm like, tuck your knees.
Yeah,
just tuck your knees a little bit more.
I was we couldn't have gotten another look at that? We couldn't have had another take?
Like, it looked like she was strapped to a board.
Yeah, it was really odd.
Or like they took a still shot of her and rotated
a picture of her.
It looked really stiff, it looked really weird, and it looked really bad.
But that, when that's the only real knock I have on the film,
yeah.
you can't. It's not such a bad deal.
But it was bad enough to be noticeable.
So, you talked about the psychic battle between him and Xavier. This is the moment where I thought, oh, cool, Apocalypse, because he does grow, and it was a nice way to work that into the movie without it feeling out of place or strange. But they save Charles, and he's going into this mental battle with Apocalypse.
He's in his mind palace.
He is. And he's struggling pretty mightily, and Apocalypse is saying, you can't.
He's like, this is my house, and Apocalypse is like, you're going to need a bigger house.
And he grows, and he's beating his ass, and he's like, Jean, help me. Jean.
Please.
And sure enough, Jean shows up. And this is... Magneto is attacking, Cyclops is attacking, everybody is attacking Apocalypse. Ooh, we completely left out. So Archangel dies. He ends up in the X-Jet after a back and forth with Nightcrawler. The jet crashes, explodes. Archangel's lying there dying, and Apocalypse looks at him and says, useless. So at this point, you really get it hammered home. He is a tool.
Yep.
You were the one closest to the door when I came in.
He was not chosen. He was not predestined. He was just there.
Apocalypse just simply needed a strong mutant to serve him. You failed.
You're expendable.
Yeah. And Storm sees that and realizes that. She sees Mystique and realizes, there's my hero. What am I doing?
Yeah, she's just kind of hiding in the building because she is younger. You know,
yeah.
She's a child and she's freaking afraid.
Yeah.
So
as well she should be. For
most of the battle, she's just sitting back and watching like, holy crap.
What have I done? What is going on? So Xavier's getting beaten down and he's reaching out to Jean, and Jean finally, he's like, unleash it, Jean, unleash your power. And it happens. Again, earlier in the film, I'm like, please let them do the Phoenix. And you know what?
They
did the Phoenix!
Out, she walks off of the...
That was a nice touch.
And, steps a few into midair. And she lets go. And this big golden wave of energy and becomes the Phoenix. So it's not like perfectly outlined like a bird head and stuff.
But it was enough. It's
obviously like wings, tail.
It's what I wanted from it, and my hope would be, in the next film, her to be in the Phoenix costume.
The green with the sash.
Yeah, I think that would be excellent.
Yes.
And this is the one thing that I appreciated the most about this movie. And in the first Avengers, Loki is more of a mastermind. He's not really hard to beat. Hulk beats him by himself. Thor has beaten Loki by himself.
Right.
In Age of Ultron, it took pretty much the combined effort of all the Avengers to overcome Ultron. In this movie, it took the combined effort of the X-Men to beat Apocalypse.
Yes.
There was no moment where it's like, oh, Xavier's got him, oh, Jean's got him, or oh, Magneto. No, it literally took all of them working together to beat this guy.
And the Phoenix rose and melted his face.
And
literally.
It was kind of gruesome.
Skin, muscle, skeleton.
And for a moment, I was like, are they gonna imprison him?
Yeah, because
that's kind of what I thought they were gonna do.
Because of all of Magneto's metal was going in around his legs and trapping him, and then he was being hit with the fire and stuff. And I was like, is he gonna be melted into an Apocalypse statue?
But
no, he was
melted.
He was melted.
It was pretty bad. But
it was gruesome.
Yeah, it was, again, I liked that it was the combined efforts of the X-Men to beat Apocalypse. And instead of just oh, hey, we knocked this guy out, no problem, whatever.
Yeah. And he was very visually dead, so we know he's not coming back.
Yeah. So, the X-Men have overcome, the world has been saved from the Apocalypse. So at this point, they've rebuilt the mansion, and they show, Jean and Magneto working in tandem to rebuild the mansion, which was kind of cool. I thought that was neat,
nice.
Making everything float around and all that kind of stuff. But, so they work together to rebuild, and then, you have the moment with Charles and Magneto talking to one another and saying, can I convince you to stay? And he's just like...
He's like, you're a psychic, you can convince me to do anything.
No. He should have floated away.
He should have floated away.
That would have been the one thing that would have made it better. And then...
Xavier's like, oh, you.
And, Xavier sits there and he's watching his X-Men in the danger room fighting Sentinels with Mystique leading them.
Yep.
In her kind of very close to her classic costume.
It kind of looked like a halter design, even though it was a part of a bodysuit.
It was awesome. Again, as an X-Men fan, you want to see the danger room. You want to see them just beating down shit in the danger room. And it was great. Because I was like, yes, that's what I want to see. And then, boom, credits.
Yeah. Magneto drops a seal friend.
Yep. Because they're not going to be on the same side, no matter what. adamantly feel
they'll always have
opposite end.
different views of the same experience.
Yeah, and there's nothing that's going to change that for either one of them.
Yeah.
They will work to try and convince the other one, but at the end of the day, they're just never going to see what the other one sees.
Yeah.
The post-credits scene gives us a hint. You see the Weapon X facility, and you see, men in suits walking through, and they get, a
vial of his blood.
Yeah, a vial of Wolverine's blood says Weapon X on it, and they put it in a briefcase, and they have a few other bloods alongside it, and they close it, and it says Essex Corp. Which makes me feel that there's something sinister coming for the next movie. For those that don't know, Nathaniel Essex is Mr. Sinister. Very excited. Mr. Sinister is probably my favorite X-Men villain, or one of the favorites.
I just really like the way he looks.
There you have it.
I don't really know anything about him, but I really like his look, and I like his name. It's cool.
Yeah. I like Mr. Sinister. I am curious to see how much they incorporate kind of the Summers brothers into that. I mean, with Alex being dead, I guess it's a little difficult to do that. But I'm excited to see Mr. Sinister. And to be fair, he's really the only logical choice for the next big villain. I mean,
yeah.
Who are you going to do? Arcade? Like, Savage Land stuff? Although that would be kind of badass. If they did
I was
Land.
thinking about Savage Land. That would be really cool.
Yeah. So it was a great way to wrap up the movie, tease the future of the franchise.
Yeah.
Psylocke did escape unscathed.
Yeah, she ran away. She was like, bump this.
So they could definitely bring her back.
Storm is at the school now.
Yes.
She's like, I think I'll stay.
Nobody ages, so everybody's going to look fantastic in the next movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been like 30 years and nobody ages. But that's okay. We completely forgot. Moira McTaggart had her memory restored by Charles, so she remembers the fact
she's
that...
like, do you know where you are? And he's like, on the beach
on
with
the beach
you.
with you. And she's like, are you drunk? Like, what are you talking about?
She's like, you perv.
Yeah, but he restored her memory, which was nice. So, to wrap this up, where do you rank this among the X-Men films? Where does this fall for you?
That's tough because they all kind of hit the same mark with me. Like, they're all equally good. I haven't been disappointed with any of them. I guess in order of appearance. Because I like First Class. It was really great. It was a good reboot. Days of Future Past was just fantastic.
Yeah, that was nice.
All the characters and the action and the acting, it was fantastic. And this was just followed suit. It just had, I'll just say in order of appearance just because they can't all be number one.
For me, this one probably falls in the 3 or 4 range. And that sounds bad. It's not. It's because they are really strong films. I do include the Wolverine into the X-Men movies. If I really had to rank it, it would probably go First Class, Wolverine. This one or Days of Future Past could kind of go either way. I will say I don't really consider Days of Future Past to be a very strong X-Men film. Because the only time you really get the X-Men is in the future getting their ass kicked by Sentinels. Like, everything else is more Wolverine.
That's true.
So, this gets the nod over Days of Future Past.
It's kind of like how Civil War is a Captain America movie.
Yeah, but this would be probably third for me. Because, again, I like Days of Future Past a lot. It's super cool. But this felt like a stronger X-Men movie.
Yeah.
This felt... in terms of all the Marvel movies, I think this would be the second in terms of group movies would be concerned. I think you go Avengers, then Age of Apocalypse. Just because it really felt like a team movie.
Yeah.
The way the villain was presented felt like that.
Yeah.
I would say I'd probably put it second. In terms of team, you could put Age of Ultron equal with it, I think. But yeah, I'm probably third. in terms of the X-Men movies.
Yeah.
I can't compare it to the overall Marvel movies because that's like a huge list.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
Maybe one day we'll do it.
Yeah, one day we'll sit down
ranking,
and hammer that out, and that list will probably change anyway.
But it was another satisfying installment of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Obviously a different style because it's Fox and not Disney.
Yeah. And again, like, I walked away from this movie with a smile on my face. I said it at the beginning. It felt like a Saturday morning cartoon because it was fun, there was action, they just put it together really well, and I enjoyed it. There was everything I wanted from this movie. They had great moments, they had awesome little, like, Easter eggs in there for a fan. Really good. Really, really good. I'm very excited to see it again.
Mm-hmm.
Well, folks, I think that's about all we got to say about it. Is there anything else you want to
add? Magneto rules.
Well, there you have it. Magneto was right.
Michael Fassbender forever.
Oh, I guess we probably should say, who would be your favorite X-Man or woman?
Well, if I have to stick strictly to X-Men and not mutants,
Yeah.
I would say Beast.
Okay, well, who's your favorite mutant?
Magneto.
Well, he's not an X-Man, so...
Exactly.
Beast it is. For me, it would probably be Gambit. I love
Gambit?
that. I love that Dan Cajun so much.
We might get to see that Dan Cajun on the big screen.
I mean, they're having a lot of issues with that movie in terms of, like, writers leaving, directors leaving, this and that.
I think it's tough to have a Gambit film without an established rogue.
Yeah. Although, I think we should play a game.
Yeah.
And how about the winner get a kiss from the loser?
Honey?
You know, that's what I want. Give me the 90s cartoon Gambit in a movie. I'm good. I don't care how shitty it is, that's what I want.
You know, they could make a whole film about him leaving the Thieves Guild.
I hope that they make a film about him leaving the Thieves Guild.
That's the Thieves Guild, for those of you who don't speak Cajun.
Yes. But no, for me, Gambit would probably be my favorite. In terms of, like, the team, my brother was... I mean, I'm aware I'm wearing a Wolverine shirt. And I love Wolverine, don't get me wrong. Cyclops was always, like... I enjoyed Cyclops. I'm like, he's the leader, he blasts shit with a laser. Like, how cool is that? But...
He's a tool.
Well, alright. You know, but because of the cartoon, like, Gambit was my favorite. Loved his swagger.
Yeah.
I'm also a huge Nightcrawler fan. Like, that was actually
I
my...
do like Nightcrawler a lot.
You know, Wolverine's my brother's favorite, so... I always really like Nightcrawler because of their, you know, interactions with one another and
I really like
close
Storm.
friendship.
I really like Storm.
Like a lot of the X-Men, apparently, is where we're really coming with this. We're fans of the X-Men.
Well, yeah, but we're at least naming different mutants.
Mm.
I like Storm.
Yeah. Who do we not like? Is there?
I don't like Cyclops.
Oh.
I like the concept of Rogue.
Yeah, I like the comic Rogue better than the movie Rogue. The movie Rogue I thought was not good.
movie Rogue.
She didn't feel like Rogue to me.
Rogue is a cool character.
Yeah.
But she hasn't been done well enough.
You know, I don't really think there's an X-Men that I don't like. I mean, that nobody that it really comes to mind immediately that I'm like, man, I don't like them.
But I like Beast, especially since he was played by Kelsey Grammer.
Oh my stars and garters, he was.
Far too perfect a casting.
That was a really nice cast job. Although I do like Nicholas Hoult as him. I think he does a really great job.
Yeah, he's been a pretty good young Beast.
Yeah. What would you like to see from the next movie? Clearly set in the 90s.
Yeah. I would like to see a new Rogue.
Yeah.
You know, why not? Jubilee didn't get to use her powers.
Apparently she does, but it got cut.
Nah.
So, I mean, there's that.
So
I did like the way she
fireworks. I want to see Dazzler. That'd be fun.
Yeah, I think that would be really neat. I would be interested in seeing Colossus added again.
Yeah.
Iceman being added again. I don't know that they will. Gambit, obviously, I think would be great.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many that they can really add to the team and toss in there. but they've done a lot of them in other movies, so that's where I think it's really interesting to see where they intend to go.
Yeah.
If you're going to add anybody, I think you're going to add like 1 or 2 people. Gambit and Dazzler would kind of be my guesses for additions to the team.
Yeah.
Well, folks, thanks for joining us again on another Spoilercast. This is probably our favorite to do.
Yeah.
You know?
It's fun, it's fresh, it's fast, it's entertaining.
Yeah, and we realize that we're pretty positive in terms of how we often see a lot of these movies, because again, I feel like if you go into a comic movie with like crazy expectations, or like it needs to come from the page to the screen.
You're right. If he doesn't say this line, it's a crap movie.
And I feel like if you go in with that expectation, you're going to be disappointed. So my expectations, I had 2 for Apocalypse, which was I want Apocalypse to say cool shit. He said a lot of that, and I want him to do some cool shit, and he did. So I was very happy.
Same with Magneto. I wanted to see Michael Fassbender's underbite, and I wanted him to do cool magnetic things, and he did.
Yeah. So, we were really satisfied. We hope you guys enjoyed the movie. We hope you enjoyed the video and the podcast.
If you haven't seen the movie, go see the movie.
As always, you can reach out to us on social media.
Facebook.com/TandemFandom, Twitter.com/TandemFandom, soon to be Instagram. It'll be under Tandem Fandom as well.
We are on Podomatic.
Where you can get the audio track for this video if you happen to be on a road trip or something.
As well as others. We do pretty much weekly podcasts covering wrestling, comic books, and video games. So there's something for everybody. Oh, and movies. So something for everybody there. Yeah, I think that's about all we got. Yeah. Well, thanks again.
And of course we get the Stan Lee cameo. This time we get to see his wife.
Oh yeah, that was a really nice touch. It's good to see Stan.
They're all like, oh no, Apocalypse.
It's good to see Stan. It always is. Yeah. Really happy with it.
90 or 92?
I think he's like 95.
Whew.
He still can crank out them cameos. I truly believe they need to just film a bunch of Stan cameos. Just have him do random stuff and insert him in Marvel movies for the next 20 years.
Exactly. Have him deliver packages to Tony Stank.
Tony Stank? Oh, that was great.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, for Tony Stank, I'm Mick.
Crap. I'm Courtney.
And if you're gonna be a fan,
bring a friend.